review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He is the author of the book Optimal Health, no other than Dr. Darren Schmidt.
Hi, Daniel. Thanks for having me.
Welcome to Book 101, Dr. Darren. Can you please introduce more about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm a chiropractor by trade, but I decided in school to focus on nutrition. I started my nutrition clinic in 1998. It's currently the United States' largest non-insurance nutrition clinic. So we don't take insurance. We haven't taken insurance in 20 years. And I have 7 other practitioners. And the point of not taking insurance is so that we are required to get people well. Like if people don't get well, why would they come and ever see us and pay us cash? So that's set this up so that I have to keep studying and have to keep improving my craft. And throughout the years, I actually also study a lot of old medical and nutrition textbooks going back to the 19 teens through the 1950s. And I got a lot of information from there. And there are some principles to follow when solving complex chronic illness. And they kind of had a lot of that figured out before World War II. But what's really interesting is that now there's a simple blood test that came out in January of 2025, and it measures the exact principles that they talked about in the 1930s on how to, what to address when you're improving chronic illness. So it's been absolutely fantastic since, here it is, end of July. And I've run this on about 800 people, and it tells us exactly what's going on. And I'll just share with you like the top 5 concerns that this simple test measures. It measures toxicity, it measures inflammation, infection, malnutrition, and mitochondrial dysfunction. So those are the things that I figured out throughout my career, and they're in my book. And then later I had to update my book a couple more times. And the last time I updated it was about 2 or 3 months ago. And I added a chapter on this test. The test is called MVX Plus. MVX stands for Metabolic Vulnerability Index. So that's what my book's about, is measuring and then being guided and tracked through your health improvement journey.
Mr. Darren or Dr. Darren Smith, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. How did your background as a chiropractor and your family's farming roots shape the book's approach to health?
So I started working on the family farm when I was 9. I spent summers there, 17 summers, doing manual labor on the farm. And the point of what I learned was you have to get the job done. So, I mean, you could see the job if it was visually done or not. And so my dad was my boss, and he would say, do this thing. And then I'd have to do it. And at the end of the day, he could see that I was done or not. So same thing. I just brought that with healthcare. Like if somebody's sick and, or they have a few symptoms, you got to fix it. So the symptoms go away. And I think in medicine, they're treating the symptoms, but they're not getting to the root cause, and they're not addressing the mechanism. There is a mechanism of chronic illness that they talked about in the 30s, and they have all these old books behind my shoulder. And so, yeah, growing up on the farm, like it's real world results. So I just brought that with me into my healthcare practice. So, and the other thing is that if you have truth, then you'll see that same truth everywhere else. So the fact is, when I found some of these basic fundamental principles of healing from chronic illness, it matched up with this. I call it the 7-step blueprint to optimal health. So there's these 7 steps to tackle to improve your health. And then these line up with this MVX blood test that came out in January. Now, the MVX Plus blood test, it's not, some kind of a fringe test. This was developed by some of the smartest medical researchers, and it was studied by the NIH, National Institute of Health, on 30,000 people over about 8 years. So it's well documented. And they originally made this test to predict longevity, how long you're going to live in the presence of disease. So they measured it regarding cancer, heart disease, catheterization, liver transplant, multiple sclerosis, and they're like just using it only for the sake of trying to determine how long somebody might live. But they're testing these 6 principles that are really measuring physiology, like how the body's functioning, how it's supposed to function. And when those 6 things are off, your health goes down. Now, most other um, tests for longevity deal with like a biochemical reaction or the body's ability to detoxify. And that's not enough. There's a thing called methylation that they test. It's a biochemical and hormonal and detoxification process. But there's also risk factors. But some risk factors are good, some risk factors are poor. And they also look at pathology. But even that is not a good way to determine how long you're going to live and how healthy you are. The best way is to actually measure function. So that's what MVX Plus does, is it measures the 6 most important functional biochemical components of our health. And they looked at about 30. And so over the course of a few years, they whittled it down to these 6. And so with these 6, I can fix them up. I can find out, like, there's one that's too high related to, let's say, inflammation and infection. We just reduce it. We have to fix that. And we use the diet and supplements to fix that. And there's another marker for toxicity. So if that's too low, that marker, if the number is too low, we have to detoxify the body and make it come back up. So, the point is, it's just this amazing test. I was talking with a PhD researcher about this earlier this week, and she said this test is the pinnacle of your decision tree regarding health improvement, your overall health. Another thing about it is that it gives you a score 1 to 100. So, like, you want your score to be low. So it's very numerical. Like, it's like keeping a score on your health. It's pretty amazing. But, the best thing about this is when you're trying to improve your health, where do you start? You start with MVX Plus. It's at the top of your decision tree. And then you work your way through that and you can get better. And I've done this now with literally hundreds of people just in the last 7 months.
Can you outline the 7 steps in your system and explain how they form a roadmap to optimal health?
Yeah, sure. The first step is related to diet. And the one thing that our foods of modern commerce are missing is protein. So that's, the most important thing about the diet. The second step is related to mitochondrial function. So the mitochondria are in your cells. They make a thing called ATP, which is like energy for the body. So there are specific supplements, and especially B1. Vitamin B1 is enormously important for the mitochondria. And then step 3 is drainage. And what that means is there's these organs in our bodies that clean naturally, primarily the lymphatic system, liver, kidneys, colon. And there's a few more. So that's step 3. You got to get those working, and herbs come in really well to fix that up. The next step is cleaning out your colon. And there's an ingredient in some supplements. It's called Mimosa pudica seed. So this is a plant, and it's kind of a gummy, soft textured, sticky substance that you take in, and it cleans out your gut really, really well. Then step 5 is cleaning out the rest of your body from head to toe of organisms. So it's like an immune system detox. So viruses, bacteria, fungus, mold, candida, stuff like that. And now the next step is step 6, and that's detoxification. So we're talking powerful detox supplements. When people take these supplements, they know they're getting cleaned out. Their bowel movements change. They might have a smell coming from their armpits. That's weird. They might taste metals in their mouth. And you can do lab work to, verify all this. And then the next step is step 7. That's cleaning out the inside of the cells. Now we know, like, Lyme disease, that's organisms in the cells. But over the course of the last, since 1980, they found more and more organisms and toxins in the cells. So candida and mold and viruses and bacteria and even parasites can be so small and they're in the cells. And then mold makes mycotoxins. That's a toxin that they use to kill their prey, if you will. And the mycotoxins can be in the cells. So herbs do a really good job of cleaning out the cells. So there's one more step. So that I just described 7 steps, but there's one more, and that's called optimization. So when you're done through this program, the last step is nourishing your glands. And there are specific glandular supplements and herbs to target each organ. So I add and minerals too. So I added that at the very end.
Dr. Darren, why do you emphasize that your healing system could be discovered by conventional doctors or found in PubMed research?
So I said so on my Amazon Kindle listing for my book, I said that this is a big system, and it took me my whole career to figure out this 7-step program. And it's not just new research from PubMed, but it's these old books over my shoulder here, all the way back to the 19 teens, but primarily the 1920s, 30s, and 40s, and a little bit of the 1950s. This is 100 years of clinical, medical, nutritional research with lots of Nobel Prizes, throughout the decades. And so there's not like a single article in PubMed that could potentially grasp such a big idea, in the clinical realm. So a lot of PubMed is, there's clinical studies and there's biochemical studies and stuff, but there's not a single experiment that you could do to like validate my 7 steps, except for now with MVX Plus. You can use that test and you can test parts of the 7 steps that I talk about, or the whole thing. But yeah, so it's kind of a big idea. So that's why I'm really proud of this book. It's a really thin book. I think 150 pages or a little bit more. And I whittle it down to the most important stuff. And there's people that they watch a video or they read an article or they see a news item on the internet or something, and they're like all excited about taking enzymes. They're excited about probiotics, and before you know it, they're on 25 different things. But there's no system about that. And it's good. I'm glad they're doing it, and maybe they're getting benefit. They probably are. But if they're toxic, if they have parasites, if they have to clean out their cells, if their liver's not working well, it's in the 7-step blueprint. So when I designed the 7-step blueprint in 2018, I actually ended up learning from it. Like I made the 7 steps, and I've seen tens of thousands of patients. I'm still in practice now, but I learned from the 7 steps, and I haven't needed to change it since 2018 when I released it.
How does your book address the 10 fundamental causes of chronic illness and which cause resonates most with readers?
That's a good question. So, how does the book address the fundamental mechanism of chronic illness? Is what you're talking about. So, the mechanism, there's 2 parts of this mechanism. The first one, as described in the 1930s, is called lactic acidosis. And I don't want to get into all the biochemistry of it. But concurrently with that, there's another problem, and that's mitochondrial dysfunction. So now we talk about mitochondrial dysfunction, but 80 years ago, they talked about lactic acidosis. Both of these things occur at the same time, and they're both solved in the same way. And there's a multi-step process to solve it. So, so I address that in the book. Now, the next part of your question is about which of the causes most resonates with people who listen or read. And there's 3 main causes: toxins, pathogens, and then excess sugar in the diet, which is related to not enough protein in the diet. So, those are like the general terms, and I can break those down. There's actually 10 mini subjects within those 3 causes. but it depends on like when I speak, different it resonates with different people. So I'll talk about parasites, and I mean I'm not just talking about like microscopic parasites. I'm talking about worms. When you take Mimosa pudica, people eliminate worms into the toilet when they go to the bathroom. So I talk about that, and that resonates with some people. Other people, I talk about toxicity, and they're like, I have a guy that he's a retired welder. So yeah, toxicity for him makes sense. So we run tests to verify. And then other people, I talk about diet, and they're like, yeah, I know I eat a bad diet. So what resonates with people is kind of like in the back of the head, they already know they need to clean their diet up. They probably have parasites. They may have toxicity. So there's my answer. It just depends on the listener or the reader.
Dr. Darren, as a doctor as well as an author, what are your short term and long term goals?
My long-term goals is my number one goal is to get as many doctors as possible to run MVX Plus so they can um, measure and then guide and track their health improvement programs. There's a 1 million medical doctors in the United States. And if we had half of them running MVX Plus, it should really be part of your annual physical. And then the thing is, what do you do if your score is too high? You want your score to come down. And the way that you bring that score down is only with diet and supplements. There's not really good drugs that, heal the body. I mean, you could take antibiotics and antiparasitics and that kind of stuff to kill off organisms and get better. But then you have to heal the body at the same time. That's where supplements come in. And you have to detoxify. That's where supplements come in. And so that's my long-term goal. Short-term goal is I'm going to keep spreading the word. I'm just recently getting on several podcasts. I'm making videos. I got 250,000 people that follow me on social media. So I'm talking about it more and more there. And I'm building my practice up. I just expanded my building. So now I have 7,500 square feet. I got room for a few more practitioners in my building. So those are my short-term goals. Thank you for asking.
Good luck to your goals, Dr. Darren, and looking forward for more success. And what will be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be an author as well as be a doctor itself?
Well, oh boy. I never intended to write a book, but I have always intended to learn the next thing to get the next patient better. And when I had a toxic mold exposure in 2016, and that really set the stage for discovery because I had to cure myself of these terrible symptoms. So I just with exploring to heal my own body and then help my patients, I had to I came upon new data and old data that people just never really heard about. So that's my first piece of advice: keep exploring, and then to become a doctor. Well, let me answer that a few ways. So you have, that's kids. I'm gonna say kids, students in their teens trying to figure out what they want to do for work. And for some people, it's obvious they should be a doctor, right? It's in their blood, if you will. But there's other people who are post college age and they want to change their career. I end up talking with a lot of them because they've been through the medical system and they have not gotten good results. They end up taking some supplements, they change their diet, they feel better, and they hear me talk on my channel, my YouTube channel, and it makes sense. And now they're inspired to become a health coach, become a naturopathic doctor, to take some kind of certificate program, and maybe just to help their family. So yeah, my second piece of advice is keep exploring. That's my advice for everybody. Keep exploring. Keep learning new stuff.
Keep exploring indeed. And thank you for that advice, Dr. Darren. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Yeah. There's an amazing book if regarding just diet. And the author is Sam Apple. And the book is about Otto Warburg. He's the founder of physiology. He's a fantastic researcher. And the book is about Otto Warburg, the search for cancer. No, wait, I'm sorry. Otto Warburg, the Nazis, and the search for cancer. So he was a gay Jew in Berlin in the 1930s, and the Nazis were trying to get his lab assistants to join the war. They're going to try to do that by force. But the story, and he stayed in Berlin all the way up until the Russians came in, and it's just an amazing book. And he was finding the fundamental basis of cancer being caused by sugar, excess sugar metabolism or excess carbohydrates. So that's the first book that comes to mind. It's so fundamental. It's such a great story.
Okay, and thank you for that recommended book, Dr. Darren. And why do you, or can you share a patient success story from the book, like the one about overcoming migraines or ulcerative colitis that
Colitis, yeah.
colitis that illustrate the systems?
Well, so I've helped a lot of people with both conditions, and the the book. Okay, I'm not remembering those case stories right there that you just mentioned. They're in the book, but I get successes every week, of course. Can I share a success I just got from today?
Yes, go ahead. Go
Okay,
ahead.
great. So this patient had C. diff, which is a bacterial infection in the intestines, and it causes chronic diarrhea. It's a terrible condition. And she had it in the fall of 2024. And she lost weight, losing her hair, thin, pale, um, fatigued. She ended up on antibiotics for a long time. And then she got better, not fully better, but she got better. And then I saw her this spring. So, like, 6 months later, she came to see me. And she kept talking about C. diff. She called it residual C. diff, like she still had some. So I ran this blood test on her, MVX, and it came back that she's malnourished. Now, she came in with her brother, and she kept talking about this bacteria. And I said, look, your test shows you're malnourished, that you're not infected. And her brother was in the room with us, and he points at her and says, yeah, you don't eat enough protein and you eat sugar every day, like that. So she changed her diet around. I gave her some vitamin B1 to help her out with that. And in 1 month, she felt 80% better. She put on 2 pounds, which was great for her. She looked better. Her skin was not pale anymore. Her hair was stronger. We reran MVX. Now it's been like 2 or 3 months, and I just saw the second result today. And her overall score was like 64, and now it's in the 30s. You want that score to come down. So she increased her lifespan. She increased her health. Like everything is better and the MVX helped us figure out the problem and then the solution. And now it's tracking that she's doing the program and that she's actually getting the results.
Thank you for sharing this story, Dr. Darren. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too, comedy 101 in second season, and food 101 in its fifth season as well. Geography 101 in its fourth season, and my BB podcast Law 101 and Mental Health 101, Love Letters in its fourth season, as well as my movie 101 review and music 101 and science 101 and sex 101 in its fourth season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Dr. Darren, what's one key takeaway you hope readers gain from optimal health to transform their health through national healing?
Yeah, the key takeaway is that when you watch a lot of videos and you listen to a lot of podcasts, there's a lot of data about different subjects that they matter, right? Like chronic infections and malnutrition, too much sugar, not enough protein, this diet, that diet, this supplement, on and on and on. There's a lot of data out there. So I think a lot of people listen to this data and then they walk away with more data, but not actionable steps because there's just so much. So MVX Plus is the test to take to start your journey on actually getting better. And so I have my videos on my YouTube channel that you can watch to learn how to interpret it. And you can order MVX Plus from my direct from the front page of my website. So I'm just saying, like, you can now take action with good direction and then tracking your results instead of just learning something new. Like, learning new stuff is always great, but then you got to take action, for real results. And that's why I have it at the bottom of my book. It says real results in that gold star.
Real results. Yes, Dr. Darren Smith. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, and looking forward for more and more and more empowering books like this to come. So can you please invite our listeners to support your book or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Yeah, you can find Optimal Health on Amazon. And my website is thenhcaa.com. That's where you can become a patient. And if you're a doctor, go to mvxtraining.com.
Yes, people, let's support Dr. Darren Smith, because if you support him, for sure, more and more and more empowering books like this to come, more and more empowering advocacy to come. So, Dr. Darren, thank you so much for your time.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
More to come, people. See you soon.